What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Hopefully, everybody enjoyed the first video. This is going to be the second video. I'm going to go over the three games that we have today for Saturday. And my name's Beans. Welcome to Beans Worthy Entertainment. If you enjoy the video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you explore the other content on my channel and you enjoy that as well, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you will be notified when I go live or whenever I post one of these videos. I've been doing this all year. I've just been a guy behind the camera going over numbers and making predictions based on what I've seen this season. It's been hit or miss, I'll be honest with you guys. And I appreciate every single one of you that stopped by this season and everybody that's hit that subscribe button, everybody that's part of the Beansworthy Entertainment family. I love and appreciate all you. It really does matter a lot. But be kind and respectful to others. Most of all, be kind and respectful to yourself. You are the number one person in this world. Nobody matters more than you do. Let's go ahead and get into our first game here. Got this pulled up for us. Go up. All right. Wipe my nose. I did clean my face off before, so better not have any boogies that end up on my video. But the first game that we got, the noon game, is going to be the Minnesota Vikings going to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. The Vikings are number 17 on the NFL.com Power Rankings list with a 7-6 record. They're second in the NFC North and also 5-2 on the road. The Bengals are number 13 on the NFL.com Power Rankings list, also with a 7-6 record. They are last in the AFC North and 4-3 at home. The AFC North division is tough as hell and tough as nails this year. As usual, we're going to go ahead and get into the numbers here, and we go over the offense first, and then we get to the defense and some special teams and the schedule as well. So if you need to pause at any time during the video, go ahead. And right now, I'll just go ahead and rattle off the numbers for you. On the Viking side of the ball, they have 341.5 total yards per game, 246.3 passing yards per game, and 95.2 rushing yards per game. They have scored 28 touchdowns this year, 23 receiving, and 5 rushing touchdowns. The offensive line has allowed 32 sacks. They have a QBR of 95, and they also have 20.5 points per game, which is 18th in the league. All the other numbers are there, and the QBR that they have is 7th. And these numbers are a little bit different because we are going to have a change of the guard as Nick Mullins is coming in to start for his first time for the Vikings. Pretty sure that he hasn't started before for them. But on the offensive side of the ball, the Vikings have 10 interceptions and 14 fumbles. The stat leaders for the Vikings on offense, we got Alexander Mattison and TJ Hawkinson. Mattison has 168 carries, 660 yards, sorry. I thought that was 80. I had to double check. 660 yards. He doesn't have a rushing touchdown yet this year. TJ Hawkinson has 85 catches, 839 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So, yeah. Josh Dobbs got downgraded to third string because, oh wow, I can't remember his name. I literally was just reading the article because I picked up the injury reports while I was making this and did. Wow. But yeah, Josh Dobbs got demoted to third string, and the other guy is the backup to Nick Mullins. Moving along, we've got the Bengals offense. They have 314.2 total yards per game this year, 229.5 passing yards per game, and 84.7 rushing yards per game. They've scored 29 touchdowns, 20 receiving, and 9 rushing. The offensive line has allowed 33 sacks and 94.1 for a QBR and 21.5 points per game. Turnover wise, there's 9 interceptions and 2 fumbles, and that's probably the only thing that's different. We've also got a backup quarterback that is in there. Jake Browning actually has been doing decent, though. little bit of a slow start, but now I like what I'm seeing out of them, and I have a feeling if things turn out, we could end up seeing every single team because the Bengals are last and they're 7-6. The Steelers also are 7-6, but I see them trending downwards more. Bengals got a fighting chance, even in maybe not to get the division, but they've got a fighting chance to see the playoffs. It's tough over there, but we'll have to see what's going to happen. The offensive stat leaders for the Bengals, we got Jake Browning, Joe Mixon, and Ja'Marr Chase. Jake Browning has 77 completions on 102 attempts, 924 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Joe Mixon has 201 carries, 768 yards, and 7 touchdowns this year. And Ja'Marr Chase has 89 catches, 1,092 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Moving along, let's get to the defensive side of the ball. You can also see a little bit of the special teams there. But on the Vikings side, they've allowed 311.2 total yards per game, 218.3 passing yards per game, and 92.9 rushing yards per game this year. They have only allowed 22 touchdowns, 15 receiving, and 7 rushing. They are 5th in the league with 18.6 points per game allowed, 90.1 QBR allowed, and 32 sacks. Turnover-wise, they got 10 interceptions and 9 fumbles, and 2 of those fumbles have been returned for touchdowns. But the turnover differential is -5. Over on the Bengals side, they have allowed 379.2 total yards per game, 252.1 passing yards per game, and 127.2 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 30 touchdowns this year, 16 receiving and 14 rushing. They've got 22.1 points per game allowed, 89.4 QBR allowed, and 35 sacks. Turnover-wise, they've got 13 interceptions and 8 fumbles. One of those interceptions has been returned for a touchdown. And turnover differential is +10 for the Bengals. So a little bit of different ways of success for these defenses, but I'm going to go with for defense, I'm going to go with the points per game allowed and go back up here. Probably going to go with the Bengals because of the fact of how Jake Browning is, and I don't know what this offense is going to look like with Nick Mullins. Moving down here, special teams wise, the Vikings kicker is 19 for 25 on field goals and 27 for 29 on extra points. He has 6.5 points per game this year. And then Evan McPherson with the Bengals, he is 21 for 26 on field goals and a perfect 31 for 31 on extra points. He has 7.2 points per game. Also, the Bengals have one punt return one punt that's been recovery. They had one punt go back for a touchdown. Injury-wise, for the Vikings, Brian O'Neill, Jalen Nailor, and Alexander Matheson are ruled out today. Justin Jefferson and Chris Reed are questionable. And then on the Bengals, we got Drew Sample, Jackson Carman, and Joe Bachie that are all questionable today. ESPN has the Bengals favored, and so does Vegas. The over-under is 39.5, and the Bengals are favored by 3.5 points. The last thing that we have to go over in this game, sorry about that, everybody, is the schedules that these two teams have had. And the Vikings' opponent record overall is 82 wins and 87 losses. And the Bengals' opponent record overall is 91 wins and 78 losses. So the Bengals have had a significantly more difficult schedule. And losses that they've taken to opponents over 500, the Browns, Ravens, Texans. They had the Ravens and Steelers as divisional opponents, obviously being in the AFC North. Vikings, they've lost to the Eagles and Chiefs. Oh, Broncos also that are above 500. Those three teams. Probably this is just a result of the NFC North and not being as difficult of a division as the AFC North this year. So, let's go ahead and make a prediction for this one. And with both of these teams having higher points per game than what the over under is, I'm going to probably go with the over. I know that the Vikings defense is pretty good this year, and especially most of the teams that they've ended up facing have higher ranked offenses. But I'm still going to go with the Bengals, just like they said. Going to hit the over, and we'll probably go with like 27-20. Go ahead and lock in 27-20. The Bengals win at home against the Vikings today. And that is the first game. Let's go ahead and get on to our afternoon game. And for our afternoon game, we've got AFC showdown between a couple of potential playoff teams. We've got the AFC North represented by the Pittsburgh Steelers and the AFC South represented by the Indianapolis Colts. And Pittsburgh is ranked number 14 on the NFL.com Power Rankings list with a 7-6 record. They are third in the AFC North and also 3-2 on the road. The Colts are number 15 on the NFL.com Power Rankings list. Also, 7-6 is their record. Second in the AFC South and 2-4 at home. Now that I realize it also is just a double check and come back up here. So far, all four of these teams are 7-6. So we're probably slated to have some pretty decent football that's coming our way today. I'm excited. Let me go ahead and scroll this down a little bit so it's easier for you guys to see, and then I'm going to start rattling off the numbers. The Steelers offense this year, 292.5 total yards per game, 179.8 passing yards per game, and 112.8 rushing yards per game. They have scored only 18 touchdowns, 9 receiving, and 9 rushing. The receiving touchdowns is tied for the worst in the league. The offensive line has only allowed 27 sacks. Their QBR, though, is 79.4. And only got 16.2 points per game. Turnover-wise, though, they've only given up 7 interceptions and 4 fumbles. And we're going to have Mitch Trubisky again today. Kenny Pickett has been ruled out. Just wanted to go down there and double-check. Sorry about that. We'll go back up here, and then we're going to stay here. But, yeah, Mitch Trubisky is the starter. Kenny Pickett is out. But stat leaders for the Steelers on offense, we got Trubisky, Najee Harris, and George Pickens. Mitch Trubisky has 51 completions on 84 attempts, 463 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Najee Harris has 171 carries, 690 yards, and 4 touchdowns. George Pickens, sorry about that, everybody. George Pickens has 49 catches, 767 yards, and 3 touchdowns this year. Let's go over to the Colts offensive numbers, and they have 337.1 total yards per game, 226.6 passing yards per game, and 110.5 rushing yards per game. They have 30 touchdowns this year, 14 receiving, and 16 rushing. 30 sacks have been allowed by the offensive line. They have 84.2 for a QBR and 8th in the league with 24.2 points per game. Turnover-wise, though, they have 9 interceptions and 11 fumbles that they've given up. Not as good as the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, are closer to the best in the league when it comes to being secure with the ball. A little bit, your team reflects who the coach is and everything. Definitely watch some footage on that, and that's definitely a good watch. Can't remember who it is, but it was featured on NFL.com. So if you just go to NFL.com, you could probably find it. Um, Definitely got to know my sources better from here on out. All right. Stat leaders for the Colts on offense, we got Gardner Minshew, Zach Moss, and Michael Pittman Jr. Gardner Minshew, he has got 239 completions on 378 attempts, 2,524 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Zach Moss has 173 carries, 751 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And Pittman Jr. has 95 catches, 984 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Just shy of 1,000 yards. I bet that he breaks 1,000 yards this game, though. Going on down to the defensive side of the ball. Over on the Steelers, we have 300. They allow 344.8 total yards per game, 226.9 passing yards per game, and 117.9 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 25 touchdowns this year, 17 receiving and 8 rushing. They have 19.2 points per game allowed, which is 7th in the league, and 82.4 QBR allowed, which is 7th in the league as well. The defense has 36 sacks, and turnover-wise, they have 13 interceptions and 8 fumbles, which makes their turnover differential plus 10. They've also got 1 fumble recovery that's been taken back for a touchdown, 1 pick six, and 1 safety as well. Over on the Colts side, they have allowed 357.6 total yards per game, 226.1 passing yards per game, and 131.5 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 34 touchdowns this year, 15 receiving and 19 rushing. They are 29th in the league with 25.4 points per game, but 9th in the league with 85 QBR allowed. Tied for 3rd as well with 42 sacks. Turnover-wise, they also have 13 interceptions and 8 fumbles. So both of these defenses have the exact same amount of turnovers. But over on the Colts side, there's just 1 fumble that's been recovered for a touchdown and 2 pick sixes. The turnover differential, though, is only plus 1 for the Colts because of the fact that they've given up so many turnovers on offense. Going to the special teams on the Steelers side, we've got 23 for 25 on field goals and 17 for 17 on extra points. He has 6.6 points per game. Over on the Colts side, he is 23 for 28 on field goals and 29 for 30 on extra points. He has 7.5 points per game. Let's go over the injuries. For the Steelers, we got Kenny Pickett that's out and Isaac Seumalo that is questionable. For the Colts, we got Segun Olubi, Jonathan Taylor, and Braden Smith that are out, and Jelani Woods is still on the IR. Going down here to the schedule, and the Steelers, their opponent record overall is 85 wins and 84 losses. The Colts' opponent record overall is 73 wins and 83 losses. Both these teams still have, well, I just know that the AFC North still has games, just like one game that's left to be factored in, and the South, that's the reason why. If you go back to yesterday's video, I popped up the spreadsheets on how I do this. But the Steelers, the opponents that they've lost to that are over 500, the 49ers, Texans, Jaguars, and Browns. Just kind of assumed those games. I ended up watching the highlights, and I remember those games. They got rolled on by the 49ers, rolled on by the Texans. It was a tough one with the Browns. They did beat the Browns earlier in the year, though. And just think that the Steelers have stronger. I mean, it's the stats show and numbers show that obviously they have the more difficult schedule. Odds-wise, ESPN has the Steelers favored, but Vegas has the Colts favored. The over-under is 42.5, and the Colts are favored by 2.5 points today. Now, if I'm putting money on it, honestly, I know that the Steelers have been going through some troubles. Lost a couple to lost their last 2 games to teams that were well below 500. But I think actually getting back on track here, the points per game is just what alarms me with the Colts. And the Steelers defense has not allowed that many points this year. They're in the top 10 for points per game, while the Colts are third from last. So, I do know that the Steelers don't put up a lot of points per game, but that's the reason why I'm going to go ahead and take the under on this one today. But my overall score, I think we're going to go with 17-13. Go ahead and lock in 17-13. The Pittsburgh Steelers win over the Colts. Let's go ahead and go to our night game, the last one that we have for this video. And we've got the Denver Broncos going to Detroit to take on the Lions. The Lions are the one team today that don't have a 7-6 record, actually. But the Denver Broncos are number 11 on the NFL.com power rankings list. They have a 7-6 record. They're second in the AFC West and 3-3 on the road. The Lions, they're number 7 on the NFL.com power rankings list. They are 9-4, and they are first in the NFC North with a 4-2 record at home. Going into the numbers here, for the offense on the Broncos side of the ball, 300.8 total yards per game this year, 185.8 passing yards per game, and 115 rushing yards per game. They have scored 28 touchdowns this year, 23 receiving, and 5 rushing. 38 sacks have been allowed by the offensive line. They have a QBR of 98.3 and 22.1 points per game. Turnover-wise, they've given up 8 interceptions and 10 fumbles. In their stat leaders on offense, we got Russell Wilson, Javonte Williams, and Courtland Sutton. Russell Wilson has 254 completions on 378 attempts, 2,609 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Javonte Williams has 170 carries, 650 yards, and 1 touchdown. Courtland Sutton has 53 catches, 699 yards, and 10 touchdowns this year. Over on the Lions side of the ball, they've been a really good team on offense, but they've also gone against some easy opponents. Granted, those opponents that have a losing record, they still have tough defenses. So Lions have been one of the best offenses in the league this year. But their numbers, they have 390.3 total yards per game, 252.8 passing yards per game, 137.5 rushing yards per game. They've scored 41 touchdowns this year, 21 receiving and 20 rushing. The offensive line's only allowed 26 sacks. They have a QBR of 94.8 and 7th in the league with 26.2 points per game. Turnover-wise, they've given up 10 interceptions and 10 fumbles, so that's about the only thing that they haven't done well this year. But the stat leaders for their offense, we got Jared Goff, David Montgomery, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jared Goff has 311 completions on 465 attempts, 3,449 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. David Montgomery has 161 carries for 770 yards and 10 touchdowns. And Amon-Ra St. Brown has 87 catches, 1,063 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Moving along to the defense. Again, also moving along to the defense, but one of the best offenses in the league. Gonna go ahead and pick one of them. Gonna pick the Detroit Lions. But on the defensive side of the ball, this is where today might be a bloodbath. Because the Broncos, they have allowed 377.4 total yards per game, 233.4 passing yards per game, and 144 rushing yards per game, which is worst in the league. Overall, they're 30th in the league. They've allowed 33 touchdowns this year, 20 receiving and 13 rushing. They've allowed 23.8 points per game, a QBR of 93.9, and 34 sacks. Turnover-wise, though, they have 11 interceptions and 13 fumbles. That kind of holds them up a little bit. One of those fumbles has been recovered for a touchdown, but that's it. The one safety. Other than that, that's it. Over on Detroit's side, they've allowed 323.5 total yards per game, 226.6 passing yards per game, and 96.8 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 34 touchdowns this year, 21 receiving and 13 rushing. So that's about the only thing is that they've actually allowed people to score. They've got 24.2 points per game allowed, a 92.1 QBR allowed, only 28 sacks. Turnover-wise also, they've only got 99 interceptions and 5 fumbles. One of those interceptions has been a pick six, and they also have one safety. Turnover differential, though, is -6 for the Lions and +6 for the Denver Broncos. Special teams-wise, the Broncos kicker, Brandon McManus, he's 26 for 28 on field goals, 23 for 25 on extra points. He has 7.8 points per game. Also, the Broncos have one kickoff return for a touchdown. Over on the Lions side, their kicker is 15 for 17 on field goals and 35 for 37 on extra points. He has 6.2 points per game. Injury-wise, over on the Broncos, Greg Dulcich is on the IR. Nick Bonito is ruled out, and PJ Locke is questionable. Over on the Lions, we got CJ Gardner-Johnson on the IR. Hendon Hooker is not available today, and we got Josh Reynolds, Benito Jones, and Taylor Decker that are questionable. Moving down, we have the schedules, and the opponent record overall for the Broncos is 85 wins and 84 losses, and for the Lions, the opponent record overall is 78 wins and 91 losses. So, Broncos have had a more difficult schedule, but one's an AFC team, one's an NFC team. NFC teams have been, let's just be real here, the AFC has been not more difficult, but look at the records on the AFC versus the NFC. And I still am going to take the Lions on this one. At first, initially, I thought that there would be a chance that the Lions have another hiccup, and be funny if they actually do after I say that. ESPN has the Lions favored. Vegas also does. The over-under is 47.5, and the Lions are favored by 5 points. So, coming back up here, and I think the Lions are going to have a heyday on this defense. Probably get 20 points for the Broncos, but the Lions might actually hit I'm gonna go with the over, and let's see if Saturday Night Football, the first one of the season, well, not there was Saturday football before, but for the regular season, the first Saturday Night Football, let's go ahead and give the Lions 42 points. So 42 to 20, lock that in. 42 to 20, Lions win at home with a probably a stellar first half, and then they just separate in the second half. So those are my predictions for today. Again, thank you to you guys that watch the videos. I appreciate and I love every single one of you. If you had fun, hit that like button, explore the other content, hit that subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell. All those that are part of the Beansworthy Entertainment family, I love and appreciate every single one of you. Hopefully you guys have a good Saturday. Look out for the rest of the videos. I might actually go live tomorrow with the Sunday videos again. So we'll see. I'll try and let you guys know by tonight if that is the case. But thank you guys again. Be kind and respectful to others. Most of all, be kind and respectful to yourself. You're the number one person in this world. Nobody matters more than you do. And I'll see you next time.